Okay, I will say good morning now because I have turned the streaming on. We are Patricia and David, Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, and there is no wind down here, but you wouldn't want to swap because we have 10 degrees down here. Well, it's probably, it was 8. Sorry, it was 8 before. I don't get up until it's at least in double figures. Anyway, 10 degrees, it's about 50% cloud cover, but only a couple of knots from the east to southeast. The bar is steady now on 1033.9, so pretty high barometric pressure here. The poor people trying to get out of New Zealand will just be having a very, very quiet time. Hopefully they haven't loaded up their boat with fresh product because the fresh products will be quite stale by the time they get to go. It's just not looking very good at all. Boy, it's quite a long period of not being very wonderful for anything. I've just been talking to Flying Fish, and he's got some snotty weather on his way to Cairns. Well, it's not too snotty, it's actually very good wind direction. Hasn't been too much coming on the Yit site, but thank you, Valak, for your report. They are on their way to Savu from Minerva. They're up to 20 degrees now on the 179 west line, so I suppose they're sort of in Fiji waters. Wind 17 to 21 from the southeast, 1017.5 on the bar, and 1.5 metre easterly seas. It's been sort of on and off rain and sort of bits and pieces to deal with overnight, a bit of increased wind and little bits of cumulonimbus, etc. But otherwise looking quite good for them. 26 degrees, so they won't be complaining. Although they are complaining about a squeak from the gimbal stove. Isn't it interesting, the squeaks that you get on board? Because my big complaint was the flaming floorboards. You know, we would sand, we would wax, we would oil, we did all sorts of things, and they still creaked in certain conditions. David made a mutter about something for Bellet. What was that?
WD-40.
WD-40, says she. WD-40 for the stove. Yeah, that's for sure.
Even works on squeaky wood.
Oh, it doesn't work on squeaky wood. Anyway, and up at Epi, there's quite a few boats up there by the sound of what Diego was saying. Overcast and 20 to 25 knots from the east in the waters outside. So there is a lot of weather to talk about today, so I will move on. I'll just see if there was anybody else out there that was going to, I don't think there's anybody else, but if there is anyone, call now. There might have been somebody there, but at this stage not heard very well. I'll give another call before I pass the microphone, and maybe we will get a relay if anybody is up and about. All right. San Francisco did indeed ban the sales of e-cigarettes until their health effects are clearer. Ironically, San Francisco is the home of the most popular e-cigarette producer in the United States, somebody called Juul Labs. I don't know much about this business, but believe it or not, it's a $38 billion business for this one particular company. They have 225 staff, and it's one of those incredible stories. It was launched by a couple of guys. They were in Stanford University together, and they wanted to try and give up smoking. They were friends, and started to work out. They were in that sort of think out of the box type era. I think they were graphic designers or something like that. Anyway, they started working on something that would help them give up smoking. They launched in 2015, and now, only 3 or 4 years later, it's a $38 billion business, and they, of course, are billionaires. But it's one of those things that is causing a bit of controversy because the story is that it helps you give up smoking, but they are getting their particular product has a very high nicotine content, and it's about 5.2 whatever units it is, and in Europe the limit is 1.7. So it is causing the regulators to have a good look at what they are doing. The flavours that they're using are attracting very young people, and the worry is that they will then go over to cigarettes. It's all these sort of sweet flavours, mango and cream and stuff like that.
Is the vaping cheaper?
I
Cigarettes.
presume it's cheaper than cigarettes.
Well,
It would have to be cheaper.
Why would they go to cigarettes?
Well, they would go to well, I don't know, but that's what they're a little bit worried about.
What's ironic is all these people that want to make these laws, these are the people that were in Berserkly during the Vietnam Wars, smoking dope, and now here they're trying to
Well, yep, they've grown older. All right, let's go to Mr. Trump. I won't give you too much, but I had a chuckle at this one. He, via the State Department, has put all sorts of sanctions on Iran, and including their senior people, including Ayatollah Khomeini, who unfortunately died some years ago. The current Ayatollah is Khomeini. It's only an O for an A or an A for an O, but it has made one big difference. That was a bit embarrassing, but anyway, I think the thought was there. The Olympic Committee, this is, I say I shouldn't really give my comments, but the Olympic Committee has been meeting, and it looks like break dancing will be added to the 2024 Games in Paris. God, it's getting really too big, and I think they should be more harking back to the more traditional things. But anyway, break dancing, I'm sure, will be very popular. It's a bit like these gymnasts that float around with flags and scarves and all that sort of stuff. This coming one in Tokyo, they will trial sport climbing, bouldering, whatever that is, skateboarding, and surfing. Now, all these events have their own particular gatherings, but anyway, they're going to be at the Tokyo Games next year as a trial, and then may continue. So the whole Summer Olympic Games are going to look quite different in years to come. I guess we just have to go with the flow. The first debates to choose a Democratic contender in the USA begin tonight. There's been a lot of people, about 20 odd, so they've divided them into two groups. There's one group tonight and the next group tomorrow night. Tonight's group is sort of fairly tame. Elizabeth Warren is likely to come out on top, although there is Beto O'Rourke there, and he has a good following and is a very good speaker. Tomorrow night's group will be much more lively, as there's various people like Bernie Sanders. Anyway, that's all a go in America, if one could care, because it's got another year to go. If you're I don't know, I've never seen a zoo in the Southwest Pacific Islands, but if you are at a zoo somewhere up there, you might want to encourage them to buy an elephant from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe would probably donate it because they have 84,000 elephants and they really can only care for 50,000. So they're very anxious to get rid of elephants. Not sure how they would get it there, but anyway, if you are talking to anybody who wants to establish a zoo in Epi or wherever, then you can talk them into an elephant. Going to Northern Europe now, Denmark has a new government. It follows Finland and Sweden in forming a leftist government, and it now has the youngest ever Prime Minister there. He's 41-year-old Social Democrat Mette Frederiksen. At least he has a good Scandinavian name, one that I can actually pronounce. What else have we got here? Western Dairy Company, for those back in New Zealand, the share milkers vote on the July 4th day. A good day for voting on something. They are voting to accept a Chinese offer to take over the company. It's really distressful for me. But anyway, it will likely go ahead because the Chinese are offering $3.41 per share, where everyone else has valued them between 80 cents and $1.20. So I can't see any normal farmer turning that one down. Now, I promised that I would talk about water spouts because I found this article in the Skipper magazine quite interesting. And you people are in an area where water spouts are a lot more likely than they are here, although we do get them down here from time to time. And if you're from Florida, of course, you know all about water spouts. They're sort of related to tornadoes, but they're called non-tornadic events. The water spout isn't a tornado. A tornado, for example, can form on land and go over water, but certainly not the other way around. So they're sort of in the same meteorological family, but their formation is a lot more benign. They form under rapidly growing cumulus congestus clouds. You might call them towering cumulus. David calls them CVs. Remember one year somebody finally said halfway through the year, what are you talking about, this CV business? But that's what it is, cumulonimbus. To form, they need warm sea surface temperatures, and you're all reporting rather warm sea surface temperatures, high humidity, converging air, and the upward motion that generally comes with the territory of a developing towering cumulus. That's why they are related. And then when conditions are just right, a rotational motion sets off, giving the shape to the water spout. So although there's a rising motion within the water spout, you sort of think something's going from the bottom to the top. The visible funnel is not formed by rising seawater. As with their relations, the true tornadoes, the rising air sees pressure within the water spout lowering, of course, and expanding and cooling the air around it, and causes condensation. So the visible funnel is just a swirl of condensed water vapor from the surrounding area, from the surrounding air. And David says that's right. Well, I hope it's right, because this is written by the Met Service meteorologist.
So it's not going to lift up an unwanted crew member.
No, he said it's not going to lift up an unwanted crew member. All right, they are, of course, a lot less vigorous than proper tornadoes. They're slower moving and short-lived, but they should be taken seriously. And what you do basically is work out their course and go at 90 degrees to that movement, just as you would if you're seeing a low on your ribs. You would go at 90 degrees to the direction that low is moving. I'm sure you all know that. Anyway, they dissipate, of course, if they encounter land, as they really do need that warm sea surface to sustain them. So if you see, for example, a dark-bottomed, rapidly forming, towering cumulus cloud, the appearance of a flat, light-coloured disk area surrounded by a darker area on the surface of the water, and you get a sudden shift of wind, you will see that the water spout begin to take shape, and this disk then becomes surrounded by an area of rising ocean spray. It's called a cascade, and then you'll see the formation of the visible funnel cloud. So they are pretty slow moving. You'll even in a sailboat, you'll have time to turn away 90 degrees from its course and get out of the road and get your cameras out, and then we'll put a picture on the Gulf Harbour Radio Gallery. Anyway, that's water spouts for you.
Very good.
Scoots, thank you for this. They've only got 8 knots east-northeast in Savu, gusting 50 and 15, that is. Pretty pleasant. East-southeast, they've corrected that. Thank you. East-southeast, I should have read the next one. And in Denarau, on the other side, gone with the wind, it's sunny with a light breeze. So a good day there. In Niafu, light winds, east-southeast, 20% cloud cover, 26 degrees. So that sounds very nice. Thank you, Whistler. And as we mentioned before, in Epi, they're going to cop this first. Well, UK will probably cop the wind first, but in Epi already they've got 20 knots from the east, gusting 25. So, 4 boats in Larman Bay. I thought he said 10. 4 boats. A good day for sleeping and reading. Okay, I'll just do a call, and I might need a relay because I thought there was somebody there, but I couldn't really pick up anything. So if somebody could give a relay, that would be good. So anybody wanting Gulf Harbour Radio, please call now. Essence, I think it was Essence. Go ahead. No, it obviously wasn't, but whoever it was, go ahead and let us know what you need. Well, I've got that station. Can someone give a relay because I'm just not picking it up? Thank you, Ron Pilgrim. Go ahead. Okay, so he's in the ARFU. Well, the signal is, it's strong but very muffled. So in the ARFU, and yeah, we've got the report here from Whistler, so we know what that was. Was there another question, Ron? Well, I know Ron has a pretty good radio, and I'm struggling with you too, so I'm going to have to leave it, and we'll maybe try again later, but I'm just not picking you up clearly enough either. So conditions are not very good today for listening anyway. It's not all that noisy, but it's certainly just not any good. Ron, are you picking us up okay? Over? Oh, that was a good strong one. All right. I'll just try you again. Could you just go slowly and tell me what that boat wanted, over? Roger, thank you. I'm passing the microphone now to David.
All right, good morning. And I think we're going to just start with the big picture, and it's pretty simple today. The dominating feature is a big fat high, and that is centered in the Tasman as we speak. Central pressure 1042. This is a big one. And another one of those huge mountains of air that we have seen this season, quite a few of them really. Now the high is very slowly moving east. Well, in fact, most big highs do move slowly. They either become blocking highs or they're just really in the low end of the movement range. An average high moves about 20 knots, but this one's not even doing half that. So right around lunchtime on Saturday, which I believe is the 29th of June, it's going to be located right over New Zealand. And as is typical to these, a polar dip is going to form just south of Anisham, and that, of course, is the southernmost island in the Vanuatu chain. So that's where we're seeing the polar dip starting to form now, but it's going to be definitely well formed on Saturday. Now, today, in the islands and up in the tropics, of course, on satellite imagery, we find troughs everywhere. There's one from the Coral Sea that goes to New Caledonia, then southeastward from there. That's the one that Jeffrey on Flying Fish has been in, and unfortunately his route to Cairns is sort of paralleling this trough. So he's really not getting out of it, sort of stuck inside of it, but at least the winds are a proper direction. We have another trough that runs from the Solomons, goes through Vanuatu, and we're hearing about the crummy weather in Vanuatu this morning as well. We have another one that lies over Rotuma, yet another over Tuvalu, and there's a fifth one over Tokelau. Now, by tomorrow, a depression is going to form within that polar dip that we talked about, and the exact position is a little bit iffy, but roughly southeast of New Caledonia. Not very far southeast, but just right in that little area right there. Now, a swash zone is going to develop once it forms, so between it and the big high that's over New Zealand. Saturday, picking that day, I think we're looking at 35 knot gales are going to lie on the run line between New Zealand to New Cal and Vanuatu. Very, very bad conditions. The depression is it's going to move toward New Caledonia, but troughing is going to continue over Vanuatu as well. And then late on Saturday, we're going to see a trough over Fiji, and that's going to go into Sunday there. And then a depression looks to develop over Fiji, and that one is going to slide east to Tonga on Monday. So this particular depression is not the same one that's going to be over New Caledonia. It is going to form within the trough that's going to be moving over Fiji. So we're going to have two depressions, if you will. So anyway, anyone leaving New Zealand or attempting to leave New Zealand should really think twice, as these systems are really not predictable at this point. And the seas, due to the swash zone that I'm talking about, they're projected to be 5 meters on Saturday. This is en route from New Zealand. And then 4.5 meters from 30 south up to Fiji. Fiji and Tonga, in fact. So they'll be coming from the east, from an easterly direction, and we're going to see then 4.5 to 5 meters on the beam. So not a very good direction, not a good place to be. So hopefully nobody is on the move. Now those of you at Minerva are going to be looking at 4 meters, maybe even 5 meters hitting the reef Sunday through Tuesday. Winds Friday at Minerva, I'm thinking east-southeast about 20 in the mean. Saturday looking like easterlies 25. And on Sunday, we're going to see possibly anywhere from east to east-northeast, 25 to 30. On Monday, we'll take a risk and move it out a little bit. Easterlies 30 to maybe 35. And Tuesday, it looks like we're going to get a bit of an ease, if you can call 25 knots an ease, and that'll be out of the east. So that's Minerva. Now, these are pretty strong winds, folks. Gusts are probably going to be higher. And the high swell is not going to make it probably too comfortable within the reef area, the lagoon there. But you will be safe. You'll be safe in Minerva, so long as you've got plenty of scope out. And as I've said in the past, many yachts have weathered much stronger conditions than that. But the swell direction, mainly from the east, and the wind is just going to create a bit of a chop in there, and probably not going to be very exciting to do any snorkeling. So hopefully you've got some good books or a good recipe. What's that?
The buoy might move.
Yeah, the buoy possibly could move with this big swell coming in. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll be anxious to get your reports. So that's Minerva. We'll look now at Tonga, where the winds are starting to increase, and again, that's thanks to the New Zealand high. Tonga Met has put out a strong wind warning and a small craft advisory. That's enforced for all Tongan coastal waters. So they're talking about east to southeast winds up to 20 knots, rising 25 knots later today, and virtually the same forecast for Friday. Now, my forecast, I'm looking at Sunday right now, the Hapais and Vavau, looking at easterlies 30 knots and higher in gusts. Monday, east, northeast to northeast, 30 to 35. And possibly veering back to easterlies late on Monday night. And on Tuesday, possibly easterlies, again around 30 knots. Now, the heaviest rain looks like it's going to be on Tuesday, but convective activity is going to start on Sunday. So it's not going to be very nice weather for the latter part of the weekend right into Tuesday. So you have time to find shelter. If we were in the Hapais, Chameleon, we're in the Hapais or Tonga Tapu, we'd move and go up to the Vavau area, find ourselves a reasonable spot for these winds, and basically hunker down. Over to Fiji now, where the wind is going to start to pick up as well due to the New Zealand high. The trough to the west is going to approach Fiji and start to affect the group, possibly starting to affect it on Friday. But in my view, the main activity is going to be actually Sunday, as it looks like a depression is going to form, and it looks like it's going to form over the Asawas. And you can expect then cyclonic winds virtually over all of Viti Levu and surrounds. And by surrounds, I mean Asawas down to Kandavu, all of Vidi Levu, Batui Rock, all rotary winds right there. So to give you a wind direction, it's going to be a little bit tough. Now, Fiji Met does have a strong wind warning out for all waters, and you could expect easterlies 20 to 25 today and tomorrow. The trickiest wind days are going to be Saturday and Sunday. Now, what I'm going to give you now is my analysis, not Fiji Met. I'm seeing easterlies 25 early Saturday. There's going to be wind shadows for western Vidi Levu, so that's going to look good early Saturday. But later on Saturday, I think the wind is going to back, so that the Yasawas are going to be looking at northeast winds. So you could scratch the wind shadow. Northeast winds 30 knots, and also 30 knots for Kendavu all the way over to the Lao. And on Sunday now, possibly west-northwest winds for the Yasawas, northeast winds for the area east of Vidi Levu and the Lao. That's northeast there. Areas in the southern Lao now, may see northeast winds up to 40 knots northeast. This is all fluid, what I just gave you. So I'm going to give you an update tomorrow. We'll have a couple of model runs, of course, by then, and we'll see if they change their mind, or maybe we could tie it down a little bit better. But this is some serious wind, and convective events in this are pretty intense as well. So plan on moving to a pretty good anchorage if you can, if that's at all possible. And we'll see what happens. Now, when we have these rotary winds, these cyclonic winds, and we do get towering cumulus or developing into CVs, we are going to get wind shifts. And these wind shifts, regardless of the direction I just gave you, could be 180 degrees from the wind that I projected. So, in other words, you've got to have protection virtually from all directions, just in case. And even if you aren't able to get that, just don't get too close to shore, in our opinion. I don't want to sound condescending, but we've seen this time and time again where people are just a little bit too close and regret it when they get that wind shift. Over to Vanuatu now. That's being straddled by the trough, as we mentioned earlier. And there's showers virtually everywhere. I'm looking at conditions, and we've got showers in Sola, Big Bay, way up there, Luganville, Lamap, Lanikai, Nisham, everywhere. We've got showers, all thanks to that trough. Winds easterly, probably around 20 knots, maybe even higher. Diego's reported higher wind, a little bit offshore from his protected anchorage there. So out in the open water, it's pretty rough. And with the seamounts coming fairly close to the surface, it is generally rougher in Vanuatu than the wind usually calls for. Now, the depression formation that I talked about on Friday looks to me like it's going to be just west of Malakua. So that means the northern half of Vanuatu may be looking at northeast winds and southeast winds from Erromango down to Anisham. So it's going to be pretty tough to make a call on the direction because of the cyclonic nature of this. Now, Saturday looks like you'll get south-southwest winds around 15 knots, maybe 15 to 20. And Sunday is quite iffy as this weak depression looks to move over to New Caledonia. So this is going to obviously change all the wind directions for Vanuatu. So again, we'll look at it a little bit more tomorrow and see if we can give you a little bit more of a firm wind direction. Best thing is to assume the wind can come from anywhere, and it's not going to be light. Not looking good for New Cal either. East-southeast winds, 20 gusting 30 in our area, and showers as well. Heavy rain later today. It's really going to kick in, I think. Friday, east-southeast about 20, rain as well. Saturday, we could be looking at south-southwest winds, maybe south to south-southwest. They could be in the 15 to 20 knot range, but we could have easterlies that you'll depend. It all depends on what this little depression does. I don't trust to give you anything for Sunday at the moment. I just really don't see how I could do that and be accurate. So I'll do that tomorrow. But that's it. That's what it looks like through Saturday for Newcal, for you folks that are there. Wouldn't mess around in the lagoon. Find some shelter in the mainland. And if you happen to be down there at Ile de Pan, be careful there. There are places you can go. If anybody has questions on that, give us a call. And that's all I've got for now. Any questions that you may have, feel free. And I'll pass it over to the chief, see who's there.
All right, I know Eye Candy on streaming said that there's virtually no copy on us in the Yasawas. So if conditions have changed radio-wise and you're copying now, we'd be happy to go through that Fiji report again in a minute. Atla, by the way, David, are arriving Port Vila from Fiji tomorrow, so that's not going to be very good. Atla's got our very favourite artist Eva on board. So they're going to have a pretty sporty arrival in Port Vila, but it's not too bad to get into Port Vila.
It's easy.
So that's just take care, you guys, and all will be well there. All right, so is there anybody wanting any further clarification? Please call. There was somebody there just came in. Who was that? Oh, good morning, Elaine. Go ahead.
Good morning. David mentioned that with the development one day
Okay, you're just going to, it's quite scratchy for me. You've got a strong signal, but it's very, very noisy here. It's our usual problem in the winter time. I do miss not being here on Saturdays when it's better with people sitting in bed. But just tell me, just very briefly and loud as you can, where exactly you are and where you will be on Sunday, Monday. Over. You will either. Which is Popeyes. Okay, you're in Ualiva. Are you going to move up to Vavau, or do you intend staying in the Popeyes? Over. Okay, I'm going to pass the microphone.
This is Monday.
Sunday, Monday.
All right. From what we can gather, then you're looking at Sunday and Monday in the Hapais. Well, Sunday, early morning Sunday, I'm looking at basically easterlies, give or take on that direction, but mainly easterlies, and the wind's going to be 25 to 30 knots in the mean. 25 to 30. Now, that could be higher gusts. That's very early in the morning. Looking at more lunchtime, about the same. Looking at dinner time and toward the midnight time frame. And I think the wind is going to back. You're looking at east, northeast, maybe northeast, but certainly north of east. And the winds 30 to 35, a little bit to your west. I'm seeing 35 to 40 knot winds, but not right there. So that's on Sunday now. On Monday, early morning Monday, we'll be looking at east-northeast winds 30 to 35 knots, 30 to 35 knots. And moving to lunch, you can see where my mind is. I believe you're going to be looking at 35 knots, again out of the east-northeast to northeast. I'd think twice about hanging out in the Hawaiis. I know there's a few areas that offer some shelter, but I don't know. It is quite possible that there could be a wind shift. What I'm looking at right now, of course, is just the view at one point in time, but very possibly the wind could shift to the south, and we might even get some westerlies out of this. And the reason for that is there's a possibility of getting a little bit of cyclonic rotation moving to the Tonga area on Monday. So that's why I suggested Vavau. And again, we don't give advice, but it's not very far to get up there, but it's all up to you. So that's what I see at the moment, and I'll update all of this tomorrow. Over.
Yeah, you faded into the crackles, and I know you mentioned crew, and I suspect you're trying to get them out, either to Vavau or to Tonga Tapu. So you'll just have to, hopefully, you can work that through and see what David has tomorrow. You're not far away from either place, so but it does sound rather grim. All right, and don't forget, folks, if you have something that you're not really, or we're not picking you up, ghradio@extra.co.nz. And according to iCandy, we are heard on the HF now. Interesting conditions today. It's not very good conditions, actually, for hearing at this end. All right, is there anybody else that needs any clarification? There is a lot of weather to consider, and you do need to look ahead. Anybody else? Is there any relays for anybody that might be in the snap, crackle and pop? Oh, good morning, Jonathan. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jonathan. Oh, thank you. So they are leaving for Vavau tonight. Yeah, good thinking. Yeah, Ron, your signal is just cutting in and out a little bit. Just check your microphone connection there. You're booming in, Jonathan. Whereabouts is Shanu? Yeah, it was interesting because iCandy said that we were absolutely not heard earlier on, although better now. And thank you, North Star. Good copy in Vianney Bay. So things are changing rather rapidly. All right, thank you for that. And you, everybody, have a good day. I assume there's nothing much more. We'll be back tomorrow with a fairly full roundup. Yeah, David sort of likes lots of weather to talk about, but it certainly doesn't look like there'll be snorkeling weather anywhere over the Southwest Pacific over the weekend. So hopefully you'll all be in a good, safe spot, particularly you rally folk. I know there's a lot of you together But boy, in these conditions, you really do need to space yourselves out, as I'm sure good seamanship will tell you. All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. This is ZMH 286 Gold Harbour Radio. The frequency is all yours. Oh, hello, Alan. And yes, I've had a couple of replies from Denise. I wanted to tell you she's really, really enjoying the 30 to 40 degrees. All well with you, over?
Yeah, roger, all good here, 25 to 30, southeast, not finding the water too warm, but making it over. And other thing is, tell the next that figured out how to put a sauna in the boat yet, so then they would get for now.
What's his position now?
Yeah, you're still in the same position. David was just asking, the same position there. He's looking, he always needs a reminder, and it's so far back now. He's been there forever. You have a look at around 22 and 159 east. He's just going to have a look at where you are. And
Southeast 25 tomorrow.
Yep, you're going to have the same southeast 25 tomorrow, Alan. So, and I will pass on the fact that she's probably better off where she is if she wants it really hot. Over. Well, you just dropped right off my meter here. It's interesting, isn't it, at the moment? Boy, we need some more sunspots around. Well, I presume you want to have one of these wetsuits, you know, these ones that you pump hot water through so that you can stay down there and fossicking around and keep warm. All right, Alan, anything else? I'll just see if I can copy you again. Over. Yeah, I think when you do a longer transmission, the old radio sort of runs out of fufu, but when you come back like that, all good and strong. Boy, that sounds not very good diving conditions, 25 to 30, but anyway, sure you'll handle it. Okay, folks, cheers all.